Veterans make up about 7% of the U.S. population. These men and women have volunteered to take up arms and lean into harm's way to serve their country. Yet the unique structure of the military presents some distinct challenges for its members, particularly when transitioning back into the structure of civilian life. Behaviors have been conditioned and outlooks have been shaped by the military experience. Remember, we take our nation's young and we train them and we place them into foreign and unpredictable environments, and we give them immense responsibilities, often for the lives of others, and they remarkably succeed at these, sometimes at great expense to themselves. Later, we bring them back and we reintegrate them back into society, and it is critical that we get this step right if we are to continue to go to American families and ask them for their sons and daughters or their husbands or wives or moms or dads, and we place them into these extraordinary conditions. And oftentimes these are simply not the same people that come back as when they left. And it is for this reason that we get right, that we make right, veterans' relationship to justice.
You know, they've done a lot of studies, and historians that have studied, feudal Japan and the era of the samurai, right? There's no real evidence of PTSD there, right? And one of the reasons is because they're early on bred into it, and the nature of the battles, it was fought for honor, and you were fighting honorable warriors, and it was face to face, hand to hand. You were there for battle. But now we take a service member, or you take somebody off the street, a civilian. You give them 90 days or so. You make them into a soldier with the expectation. Doesn't matter what your MOS is. It doesn't matter. You got to be able to pull the trigger if it comes to that. You got to look at somebody. You got to kill them if it comes to that. That's war, right? Okay, cool. You put somebody downrange. These days, God knows what's going to happen. God knows. You could face just every second of the day could be something new and terrible. Or, I know people who've gone downrange and it was a cakewalk for a year. But God knows. You don't know what you're going to face. You don't know what you're going to get into. And you've had 90 days of preparation for that. And then either you get out honorably or you get out otherwise, and it's with you. There's no reversal process. Yeah, there's transition phase and everything like that, but it doesn't help. I mean, you get out and I'm a veteran now. I'm a civilian. And it's just kind of like, what do I do about that?
And how did PTSD contribute to your homelessness?
Anger. Not being able to deal with people. You're very short-fused. Real short-fused. So you what's what I'm looking for? You don't tolerate people's bullshit at all. You don't tolerate the way people treat other people. Because you know what it's like to be treated bad. You know what it's like to be treated differently. And you don't deal with that very well. And the mood swings, the sleeplessness, your mind, sometimes, you know how it is when you can drive your car through a state, and sometimes when you leave that state, if you look at your map or your GPS, it's still in that state. It hadn't caught up with you yet. In a sense, sometimes your mind is like that. Even though you left the military, it's still in it sometimes. Because I still have the dreams. Well, we used to run a camp at Camp Unafraid. We had a POW camp there. So our job was to break people. And yes, we were good at it. we were state platoon at the time, so our job was to do that. We got pretty good at it. But when it's your turn, it's a different story, because then you see the horror that you're putting on someone else, and that little bit of conditioning, they call it conditioning. But when you leave, there's something stuck there. Not everything goes with you. Everywhere you go, you leave a little bit of yourself somewhere. There's something either added or something left behind. So you have to figure out in your mind what's worth leaving and what's worth keeping. And your trust in people is real short, because you don't trust anybody. Because you've been taught not to trust the enemy. You've been taught you don't know who the enemy is. So you're always on guard. You're always defensive. And that does not work well for your family sometimes, because they can't live with you. They can't deal with what you do. You know, because I've had relationships and the women that I deal with, I can't deal with you. I can't live with your attitude. I can't live with you're up at night walking the door like you're looking for somebody. Or you're just outbursts of anger. These are the things you have to deal with day in and day out. But the things that they think, well, okay, appeal will settle. And when they ask you what is wrong or what happened, and when you tell them what went on in your military career, oh, we got to research it, and we gave a class on ordnance. You know, not to kick, not to pick up. Right. And you know, you always got somebody kicking, picking up. So 4 or 5 guys were out there kicking. And they kicked one and it exploded, and they put them in the ammo crate box. they fit in there. One box. Wow. They fit in there. And I guess it was 1 or 2 boxes. It may have been 2 or 3. But the point is that it happened. And there's a lot in the military that they say don't happen, but it does.
I think there's several different kinds of it. There's obviously when you go to war, the hypervigilance, as they call it. So you're alert all the time. You're always aware of things around you. I was very much like that, and it got pretty bad to the point where I didn't want to go out in public. I didn't want to be around people, just because it's easier to just stay at home and not have to be looking around, because you kind of can't help it at that point. But I found I was getting a lot of social anxiety when I'd go out in public places. I was always watching everybody, you know, the hypervigilance thing. So that's how it affected me, and I started secluding socially. And, you know, the family wants to get out, so when I have a lot of social anxiety, I'd rather just stay in. So a lot of times my wife and daughter were doing things on their own, and I was just opting to stay home. So there's that. And of course I think there's different types of PTSD, you know, the hypervigilance from going to war. You know, if you've seen a lot of messed up things, you know, you could probably have the nightmares, that type of thing. But I also think there's a certain just stress level being in the infantry, even being in a garrison unit, because you're expected to perform top-notch 24/7 at all times. And when you're going 100 miles an hour and you never get to slow down, that changes you. You know, it ages you. It gets you in a certain mindset, and it's hard to ramp that down when you go back into civilian life. So I think PTSD is a broad range of things, and not just, I went to war and I saw some bad things. I think it's intense stress for long periods of time that wear on the body and the mind. And me and somebody else had to go clean up his apartment. Obviously the hazmat team or whatever had already gone in and got the gory stuff and all of his stuff. And I mean, there was still a bullet hole in the wall where it left his head and went into the room or went into the wall. And yeah, you're having to clean out all his personal items, and it's just kind of like, ugh. And you knew the guy, you know, you worked with, you saw him every day. And that happens, and it's just kind of like, well, go figure it out, you know, go deal with it. And also getting back to the PTSD, I think a lot of people, if things have happened, you know, you've engaged in combat, whatever happened, and you come back, And I think there's a lot of times where people are like, well, why did I go through all that? What was the purpose of that?
I can't say I failed in one respect because I did what I wanted to do for serving my country. I did what I wanted to do as far as raising my children. I don't think I failed, but I think my country has failed me. Because in order to be a productive citizen beyond those walls of the military, sometimes you need help. You need help recycling yourself back into the world that you left. I spent 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 years living on the street between Virginia and here, Arkansas, Shreveport. It's not a good way to live. When you can carry everything you own in a box the size of that chair.
You take somebody who never was in a combat zone. There's a mindset. There are things that you grew into and you were bred into you that don't transition to civilian life. It doesn't work. And some people get over it, and some people make it work, and they figure it out. But God, if you're looking down the barrel of PTSD, how are you supposed to get over the regular stuff? How are you supposed to just get over the not sleeping at night that almost every veteran experiences, because you're expected to be on, turned on 24/7? How are you expected to get over just the regular frustrations you have with the disorganization of the people you work with? That's just regular, stuff that non-combat veterans face, because it's not the life we came to live. And then you put PTSD in the picture, and it's just, yeah. And let's throw on no benefits on top of that. Let's, we'll just really put the powder keg right next to the fire. It's nuts. It's nuts.
I actually had a good friend of mine in my unit. He was a fireman. He had already gotten out of the military. He was a fireman. And at one point he had to go to his fire chief and say, look, I can't do this. I have to quit. And he called me that day, and it seemed like he was doing fine. Everything was great. And he called me that day, and he's just like, my anxiety's through the roof. I'm freaking out. I can't even work right now. And this is a guy who got out, had gotten a job, a good job, was on the right track, and then all of a sudden it all came back. His anxiety spiked, and he started, really mentally kind of coming undone, and he had to quit, and, he's going to have to redo himself again like he just got out. So, and I know a lot of people get nervous. They joined when they're 18, they're 30-something, they get out, and they're just kind of hanging out there, and they don't know what to do. They don't know where to go for resources, and they're lost, and nobody can help them. So that's when I believe the spiral starts happening, and the next thing you know, you're homeless, you don't have money, and you don't know where to go. So I've seen that firsthand. I've experienced it a little bit, not nearly as severe as a lot of people, but yeah, it's one of those things that when you get out and it seems like you're doing well, it can all swell up at any given time, it seems like. So when I transitioned, I thought, because I'd already had a college degree and I had gone in, I was about 27 when I had joined. So I got out of the military in my 30s, early 30s. So I thought that I was ready to go. I was prepared. As soon as I came out, there was everything just kind of hits you like a truck, where you realize that you're not as prepared as you thought you were after being in the military, and then a drastic change of life going into civilian life. So for me, it was shocking that how much of a transition it actually was. So I found struggles when I came out, just adapting to civilian, I guess, normal life, you want to call it, going from a pretty high octane infantry unit to slowing way down and getting a little more politically correct. So the transition there is tough socially. you're also used to having friends everywhere and things going on all the time. So the slower pace of life coupled with a new work environment, whereas you're not as censored in our type of work environment, and then you come into a civilian world and you have to readjust. So that's what was surprising for me. And then looking at employment, looking at getting all your benefits together so you can continue on with life. And for me, the main thing is not creating any lag going straight into something. So that way you don't have a chance to misstep and get, dragged down and end up not doing anything, becoming unemployed, becoming homeless, that sort of thing. So having a clear direction was something that I pushed myself to do, and I enrolled immediately in school. So that helped with the transition, but it socially, mentally, everything like that, it's a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. So. Yeah, absolutely. I know our medic, when we got back from deployment, or even a little before, he had probably seen a few too many dead bodies, and he was getting real kind of secluded. And when you're in the military, nobody talks about it. It's a taboo subject. So if you're dealing with something, it usually just comes out in the form of anger when you're in the unit.
I actually have an honorable discharge, but I have a few buddies who, they made some mistakes while they were still in, and they're paying for them now. I have a buddy who he was infantry in Afghanistan. He was 17 when he enlisted. He goes to Afghanistan, and he witnessed his platoon leader killed in an attack that was carried out by an Afghan soldier. And after that, him and his buddies, they were having trouble coping with what they had seen and what had happened. So they smoked some hash one night, and because of that, all of them were separated without honorable discharges. And now, that was 5 or 6 years ago. Since then, he's completely clean record. He's gone back to school. He's maintained a job, but he doing all of that without GI Bill, without veterans benefits, without help for his PTSD, because he doesn't have an honorable discharge status. I've got a buddy who is special forces, did 2 tours in Afghanistan. Brilliant guy. And he smoked some weed one night after coming back from Afghanistan, and they pegged him. They pegged him without, and then kicked him out, and without an honorable discharge. And now he can't. He's got nothing, essentially. No treatment options, no GI Bill, none of the benefits that a lot of us have been able to leverage and at least help us transition back. It's not easy with the benefits. So without the benefits, how can you expect a kid who's barely 18 years old? How do you send them over there, let them see stuff like that in the line of duty, and then bring them back home and expect them to be, members of society when you've signed their execution order? You put them back on the streets, they've got problems, and you're not going to give them anything. I understand. Look, there's people that do bad things in the military, and they don't deserve an honorable discharge status. They didn't serve honorably. But for God's sake, if you're going to tell a kid because he smoked a little reefer that his life is in the toilet after he gets out of the service, when you've got guys getting DUIs and domestic violence charges and stuff, that's not honorable. But they can get, half those guys stay in. They don't even get discharged. Those things happen, and that's why they have an appeals process. There is a process for it, but it's so drowned in complications, and the process is so long and arduous, and most people don't even know about it, that it's almost impossible to make those things happen. So say my buddy who smoked the hash in Afghanistan, he's been out for 5-6 years. He's been a productive member of society despite all of the trouble he's had with PTSD. And he's kept a clean record. Does he really deserve to not get those benefits if he could prove to somebody that he made a mistake, you know? And so you see people like that. He's a good case. He's a guy that was able to make it despite the fact that he didn't have help. He's just fortunate that way. But so many of these guys that, you know, they make a mistake and then they get their commander or whoever approves them for less than honorable discharge, and they get out and they've got nothing. What do you think is going to happen to them? Especially if they've got PTSD or other issues that we all face, you know, like, what do you think is going to happen to them? You think they're gonna become productive members of society? No, they're gonna end up on the streets or in prison or facing difficulties. For the most part, again, it's not every time, but I watch people I know who are honorable people suffer because they were told on a piece of paper that they weren't honorable, and it's unfair. It's not right. So let's fix it.
I have known people that have gotten. Typically, they give away general discharges now. You have to do something pretty incredible to get, you know, a quote-unquote bad one. But the general ones, a lot of people that were going AWOL, you know, why they were going AWOL, who knows? If it was they were stressed out, they were just done with it, they wanted some kind of normalcy, I don't know. So it's hard for me to speak for them. But, yeah, the most people that I've known have gotten general discharges, even for behavior based in the military. And I think it can be related to PTSD. I know within 6 months when I got back from my deployment, it took us about 6 months to kind of calm down. People were going out getting arrested. There were DUIs, there were fights. I mean, it was a mess in our unit for about 6 months. So I think there's a lot of that, and that can lead to a bad discharge if you do something serious enough, or even a general discharge. But yeah, there was a lot of drug use in our unit when we got back. They held us when we got back at the unit for 4 months and didn't let us go home. So we were still working. As soon as we got back, we didn't get any time off. We just went right back into work, and people were losing it. So, you know, some people eventually started getting discharged, started getting Article 15s. And I think a lot of that is due to, you know, coming back, and they weren't prepared, I guess, to handle an incoming unit. I don't know how they weren't, but they didn't take any steps to make sure that we were good and that we had a smooth transition. They just threw us right back into work.
He applied for his PTSD and all stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, when you do combat service, there are some things that are automatically obligated to you. Mm-hmm. But being a soldier of color, that's not always a choice that you have. You're not always offered those things, and it shouldn't be that way.
Same as you see other soldiers getting.
Yes. You shouldn't have to work 4, 5, 6, 7 years for something that you see other people walk in and walk out with. You're like, how'd they get that? And they just started. So the treatment rules that go along with that. It's a different set. And they're not a set of what's the word I'm looking for? You're not treated the same.
The other day I met a veteran. She had been a soldier, a nurse. She is a Purple Heart recipient, in fact. She survived being stabbed by an Iraqi POW. She survived a deployment where her quarters were blown apart with a force of 30,000 pounds of TNT. What took her out of the fight, though, was being raped by another officer. She was hospitalized for 2 weeks with broken shoulder, ribs, dislocated jaw, broken arm, lacerations, concussions. Her last memory was the sound of the surgical steel tray and the instruments hitting the floor as she was slammed into the wall. And she could no longer sleep through thunderstorms at night. Unable to cope, she eventually spiraled into homelessness. Last night we had her sheltered, but she slept in the closet in an attempt to deal with her PTSD.
It's a dire situation because you don't know if you're going to live from one day to the next. And if you die fighting in war, at least you die doing something for your country. If you die fighting to get your benefits, you just die fighting to get your benefits. So you shouldn't have to do that.
You know, when I was in, I cared about my soldiers. I cared about the soldiers around me. I was raised to care about people. The Army made that, you know, millions times stronger. But, you know, and a lot of us feel that way. A lot of veterans feel that way. We want to help each other, but you can't help other people if you can't help yourself. And so I want to do my part to reach out and touch somebody. I want to help, you know, I have close friends. So yeah, it's personal for me, but it's not, it's people I don't know too. I know there's thousands and thousands of people facing these problems, and they don't deserve it.
Despite the problems veterans face, the work they do to help themselves and others is incredible.
My biggest accomplishment was my children. My second biggest accomplishment was serving my country. But what I do miss is the ability to serve your country further.